Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Someone Teaching Me Something. We call it X Teaches Sree About Why. And today we have two people who are going to teach me about the Odyssey. And that's Tara Maria Fernandes and that's Krishna Sreenivasan. Hi, guys. I know feels a little bit of an ambush because you weren't sure exactly what we were doing, but that's fun here at the Sree shows. So tell me about what you all do first, and you've seen the movie, right? That's kind of interesting. But Tara has a PhD in the teaching of literature and actually teaches people how to teach. Krishna has read the Odyssey in high school.
In 10th grade, I read the Odyssey, and I watched the movie about a week ago. And that is the extent of my knowledge of the Odyssey.
That's fine.
Somehow I'm now qualified to do a teaching Sree about the Odyssey show.
Well, you know a lot more about the Odyssey than I do, so...
Which says nothing.
I can say a little, but I've just finished a PhD in book clubs and the teaching of literature. And my book club did the Odyssey 2 days ago. And it was fantastic because I think the last time that I read the Odyssey was in my undergrad. And we did Robert Fagel's translation. But Emily Wilson's new translation is taking the world by storm and influenced Christopher Nolan. And then there's this wonderful exchange where they interview Emily Wilson and she says that she was waiting for the film to come out. So she started watching all these Nolan films to see how he was going to treat this epic. Yeah. So what did you think of the film?
I thought it was great. I thought the way that I entered it thinking I knew exactly what was going to happen. I thought it was going to be the exact same story as the book I read a few years ago, and I figured the only thing interesting about it would be to see the way that they handle each of the specific obstacles that Odysseus and his crew have to handle on their way home, which obviously those were really well done. The Cyclops, very different than what I thought it was. I'd never thought of it as a particularly scary scene when I read the book or, watched YouTube videos about it, but that was some of the scenes were quite jarring in that, so obviously there was a lot of, sticking to the script and doing a really good job there, but I thought the way that they highlighted certain characters more than you'd expect and then kind of didn't highlight other things was really
So I'm going to jump in here because I loved the epic, like the spectacular nature of any Nolan film. But with the Cyclops, I thought he edited out a crucial bit of dialogue.
The nobody?
The nobody.
Yeah, I was also confused by that.
Oh, even I've heard the nobody thing.
Yeah.
So tell us about that.
And so Odysseus is a trickster. And what Emily Wilson tells us in the first line is that he's a complicated man. And for me, Odysseus is ultimately the master storyteller. And everywhere he goes to the foreign lands, every time he presents himself, he's telling a story and he's presenting himself in a certain way. In the opening line of Emily Wilson's translation, she calls Odysseus a complicated man, right? She tells the muse to tell us about Odysseus, the complicated man. And for me, Odysseus is this master storyteller, and everywhere he travels, he's going to these far off, distant foreign lands, and everywhere he needs to tell a story. He needs to establish his credentials. He needs to make sure that he's safe and that in a way he's known, but at the same time he's also always adopting these guises, and he never stops telling stories. So we can talk about that, whether he's a trickster or a liar and a deceiver. But when he meets the Cyclops, there's this incredible bit of dialogue in that Homer gives us, or it's in the original poem, where he tells the Cyclops that he's nobody.
Yeah.
And then when he maims him, or when he hurts him, and the Cyclops is trying to scream for help, he says, "Oh, nobody is attacking me. Nobody's attacking me." And so
it's just a play on words.
It's a play on words,
okay.
And it shows Odysseus's cunning and how he's always able to best his enemy. He might not be the strongest, but he's just the cleverest. And so there were bits like that where I wondered at Nolan's adaptation.
Yeah. The Cyclops doesn't even speak to them, period.
Yeah.
And there's no other Cyclopses that we know of on the Cyclopi, whatever it is, on the island.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. And also Circe. How did you find how Nolan portrayed Circe? So Circe is the witch sorceress who turns Odysseus's men into swine, into pigs.
And so they enter her island, there's these lions and tigers and stuff that are super tame. I do think it seemed like from when I read the book and from what I know about the story that the Circe's seduction of Odysseus is a big part of the original plot, but it was not even a remote, aspect of the Circe in this one. It was not a seductive island where they don't want to leave or anything like that. It was like they show up and it's gloomy and they're eating this disgusting slop and
I think that's one of the most violent scenes in the film. Is usually Circe is portrayed as someone who mixes potions. And she brews herbs from her island, and she's trying to make up for many of the wrongs that have been done to her, and that's how all this anger within her is boiling and seething, and it goes into these potions, and she turns men into pigs. Here she has this very physical, I don't know, it got to your stomach.
It's meant to be gross. The way it happens, it's not a peaceful or smooth transition. It's meant to be jarring.
So for those of us who haven't followed the story, we know that there is another set of characters that do attract him and seduce him. So you're saying there are two sets. Those are the sirens that we've heard of. So
there's at least three if you include
there
Calypso.
are many temptations.
So let's why don't we back up all the way? Why don't we back up all the way and just start by saying, so this is a poem that Homer wrote 2,800 years ago, something like that, and there are two of them. He wrote two famous poems, right? The Iliad and the Odyssey. And the Iliad, can you set up the difference of them? Yeah.
So, and that's what's beautiful about what Nolan is doing, is he's dropped us in the middle of the Odyssey, but he's given us so much that we want to know more. People are going to be reading the Iliad now as well. Where the Odyssey starts is 10 years after the Trojan War. The Greeks and the Trojans have been at war, the Greeks have emerged victorious, and all the warriors are on their way back home.
That's when we start.
When we start.
So the famous Trojan horse is not the starting point, or because that's in the Iliad.
That's in the Iliad.
And
the end of the Iliad.
And Odysseus was the guy who came up with the idea, right? And that's part of why he has to be punished, I think.
So the Iliad is the Trojan War, the Odyssey is him returning home from the Trojan War.
Right.
Okay.
Odysseus is also the man who convinced Achilles to fight in the Iliad. So we know from when we read these two texts side by side, what emerges is that Odysseus is the strategist, he's the cunning, manipulating, he's the clever one, right? Emily Wilson, she gives a lot of
She's a professor at UPenn who has written this amazing book. Yeah.
Written this very
translation.
Fresh translation, and she pays a lot of attention to his name. And she says that there's something in Odysseus that is very many-sided. The word poly is used because he really, to everyone, he's a different person. So the Odyssey is the story of his journey back home. Home being Ithaca. He needs to be reunited with his wife Penelope. Penelope, the book and the movie actually, it starts off not with Odysseus, but with a scene of what it's like back home in the kingdom that he's left. So
while he was at the Trojan
War. He's
War.
been away for 10 years, and then it's going to take him another 10 years to get back home. So a total of 20 years.
So each of the two stories takes place over 10 years.
Right.
Okay.
And do you want to paint a scene of what Ithaca...
Sure. So
Ithaca, this Ithaca is Ithaka, right?
Yeah.
ACA.
Oh, like the one in Cornell.
Yeah. I'm
Okay.
sure in Greek it would be spelled differently. But
Okay.
yeah, in both stories the setup is the same of Odysseus is gone, he's the king of Ithaca, his wife Penelope and his son Telemachus are in this palace of his, and there's 100 suitors trying to win her hand in marriage because they believe that he's dead. And
So these men are just
they're
hanging
living
around.
in his house, eating his
What?
food, drinking his wine.
For years.
Yeah, but from what I remember when I read the book, Penelope and Telemachus were not the main. We're both not top three characters. In the Odyssey, they are clearly the second and third most important characters in the movie. Arguably, I mean, in some scenes, they're in the beginning of the movie. They're more important than Odysseus is. So it's interesting.
Wait, and who are the actors in these? Do you know?
Anne Hathaway and Tom Holland are the wife and the son.
Oh, okay.
And in Wilson's translation as well, the first 4 books, we don't meet Odysseus. We hear about him, but it focuses on Telemachus and Penelope. And
so I guess it is in the book. They are more important than I thought.
But what do you mean 4 books? 4 books? The 2 books.
The book is the Odyssey is split up into 24 books.
Oh, wow.
And each deals with a different chapter or obstacle in Odysseus' journey home. So for the first 4, we actually have his son and his wife lamenting the fact that Ithaca no longer has a strong king to rule them, which is why chaos is reigning. And they keep
Oh.
saying, if only Odysseus would return, if only he would return. And Penelope, the only way that she's managing to stave off the suitors, and they get onto this trick after 3 years, they find out that she's told them that she's weaving a shroud for her father-in-law, Laertes. And every day she's weaving, and she says, only when it's done will I take another man, will I marry one of the suitors. But what it turns out she's doing is every night she's unraveling it.
Okay.
But there's only so long that she can do this, and I think that when the Odyssey opens, we realize that Ithaca is in peril until Odysseus returns, and then we get transported to Calypso's island.
I don't remember the exact order,
yeah.
but yeah, I think Calypso's is the first one.
Calypso's, and then we have Odysseus trying to make sense of the years that he's been away from home. He's been entranced by Calypso. There are ways in which he presents his captivity, which is really interesting. But it's all with these beautiful women. There's Calypso, there's Circe, there's the Sirens. But it's very often it's against Odysseus's will, or that's the way that he presents it. That he's being kept on in these various states of captivity. So he wants to go home, but why can he not? And some might find that a little convenient because they happen to be very beautiful women.
Yeah.
And who are playing these women, or what is the controversy about Lupita Nyong'o in this?
Well, that's just racism.
Okay, but who is she in this?
She plays Helen of Troy, which is supposed to be the most beautiful woman in the world. So obviously,
And that's why there's a Trojan War. But I thought she was Greek. Why is she the Helen of Troy?
because she's taken by one of the princes of Troy, right? Was that correct?
She's Menelaus' wife.
Of
And
Greece.
Paris of Troy
of Greece, and
steals her.
Paris of Troy they fall in love, and
She leaves voluntarily.
well,
Because the
this is
goddesses
the
put a spell on
question.
her.
Yeah, so I always thought that Helen and Paris fled, right? They eloped. But in Emily Wilson's translation, she says, "Oh, the goddess of love entranced me and made me leave my husband's bed." And again,
Yeah, I mean, have you heard the thing about the Paris had the competition with Hera,
yes,
Aphrodite, and
but there's this question of agency, like when people are not in their rightful beds, or when they do what they don't want to do, it's very easy to blame the gods.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and they do it for Helen of Troy, they do it for Odysseus as well, where they did something unfaithful,
Yeah.
but it's theoretically not their fault, you know.
And how does this all come together? This is Homer tells the story kind of in a third person or through one person's eyes.
So
How does it...
it's a really interesting structuring device, and we have to also be careful with Homer because we don't know if there was one composite writer named Homer, or
Really?
if it's different sources, because this is oral storytelling that has been passed down. And
But he's
so-
supposed to be blind and that.
and every epic begins with him invoking the muse. Oh, muse, tell me. The Iliad starts with him saying, "Tell me about Achilles and the greatest warrior who ever lived." And here it is, "Tell me about the complicated man Odysseus."
Sorry.
So talk a little bit about the story of how this comes together. So you're saying we don't know if it's Homer, but he does that, and then it brings these two stories together, right? The Iliad and the Odyssey.
And there are many references within the Odyssey to other heroes and to the Trojan War. So I don't know about you, but I found one very interesting story that kind of haunts Odysseus is that of Agamemnon.
Yeah.
And Agamemnon was the king of the Greeks who led them to war. But when
Brother-in-law of the guy who was married to Helen of Troy.
Yes, and
Or the
but
brother-in-law of Helen of Troy.
the
The brother of the guy
Menelaus,
who was married to Helen.
But when he returns home, he has a really nasty surprise waiting for him, and his wife murders him in a very bloody way.
Agamemnon.
Agamemnon.
Wow.
And Odysseus, when he hears of this on his travels back home, that informs how he is going to present himself to his kingdom and to his wife, because at the back of his mind he's also thinking, is this the fate that might await me?
Yeah. He doesn't want to just enter the kingdom being like, I'm back, welcome me.
Yeah. So when he comes home, it's
we shouldn't spoil that.
Yeah.
That's one of the
we
best.
should not.
I think
We
that's
should
one of the
not,
that's
yeah.
one of the things that. Also, a lot of people, I mean, even if they vaguely know the story, they know
Yeah,
he leaves and he comes back and whatever.
And
But
that was an excellent time to be watching it in a cinema with people because like everything comes to a crescendo there.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, if people know nothing about the movie and the
Right.
book, is it worth reading the book before you go? And the book sounds difficult to read.
I think just watch a
think
YouTube
so.
summary. I
Yeah?
think I think most people are not gonna take the time to read the full book. If you do, you'll be done in 2 months. Like, I don't know.
Not
But
necessarily.
maybe you get a
yeah.
reservation in 2 months.
No, I think you can read the book. Emily Wilson's translation is very accessible. It's very fresh. It's written in iambic pentameter. You can finish it in a few weeks. Why I would suggest reading it is that there are so many names and there's so much quick dialogue in the film. But if you want like a quick cheat sheet, it's basically Odysseus is on his way home. It's going to take him 10 years. He's going to meet monsters or monstrous women or obstacles or many things that are going to keep him from going home. And that is the Odyssey. It's the home going journey, and it's going through the pain and the suffering. And I think it's his way of also trying to understand the mechanics of suffering. That we could think about that as well. The gods, what role do the gods play? The fates, why can he not go home? And when a man is so set on a goal but cannot reach it, how does he then make sense of that kind of suffering that's been imposed upon him? So that in a nutshell is the Odyssey.
Right. So, talk a little bit about Matt Damon as a character, and what do you think he comes out having? Does he look right for Odysseus?
I felt like he did because Odysseus, the way other characters talk about him, he's just like invincible, all-knowing character. But when you watch the movie, or even if you read the book, you can see that he makes mistakes and he makes flaws. I mean, obviously he's cursed by the gods, but he's a guy who came back and he was the only one who survived amongst his crew, right?
Yeah.
Clearly things went wrong along the way. He'll have clever strategies and all that, but a lot of the time they will go wrong. So I think he commands enough respect for you to understand, this is why these guys are blindly following him and they believe in him. But you also can see that he's not infallible. So
Yeah.
I think he does a good job with that.
And he does repent and regret at
Yeah.
times, I think, which I wouldn't expect Odysseus, the warrior, to do as much. So I think Nolan has focused on that a lot more. About the 10 years of the Iliad was great manly warfare, and the Odyssey is about what are the consequences of that.
And we know that Nolan likes strong, brooding men like Oppenheimer, Bruce Wayne in The Dark Knight. In Interstellar, Matthew McConaughey's character is also kind of sad and dark all at the same time. Did you get that feeling here? Does this feel like a Chris Nolan character?
Yeah, he was more introspective than I would have expected for Odysseus.
You thought he was more swashbuckling than he was in this, right? Was there a lot of
he
sword
felt,
fights?
You could tell that like the characters written in this movie, at least, to have genuinely felt real remorse for the destruction he caused.
And is this like the sandals and gore kind of movie? Is there a lot of violence and fighting with
I
swords and
think
things like that?
if you don't possess critical thinking skills, you would say yes. I think a lot of people are going to leave that movie being like it was just guys fighting and fighting monsters. But if you think about it a little bit, you wouldn't say that.
Yeah. I think there are some very visceral moments. You're in the action. You're on the boat with them,
Yeah.
so you feel it. You feel the
Yeah.
journey. But I didn't find.
But you could see somebody like Joe Rogan talking about it, being like, "Oh, and it was dudes in the open ocean. Well, we need to be doing more," But I think it was definitely more than that.
And do you feel like the people, like, I'm trying to understand why this movie is already such a big hit all over the world? You can't get tickets, people are lining up, people are buying the book. So what does this hit up on, and what does it tell us about this moment that people want to watch a 3-hour movie, serious 3-hour movie? That isn't all the things, Krishna, you just described.
One thing is just the magnificence of the scale. Like Nolan understands the sense of the epic, and this is a very ambitious project. You don't casually take on the Odyssey. Something I've been talking to a lot of readers about also is that this notion of hospitality and strangers and treating people who you don't know well and graciously is something that we need to be talking a lot more about. So it's hitting a chord when the beggar, the migrant, the traveler, how you treat them, it just could be a message for our times. So, yeah.
Did you, Krishna? I'm just struck by we earlier we had like a 16-year-old here also who already saw the film. Why did you go see this so quickly? Why did you see it in its opening days?
Well, the easy reason is that my friend was like, "There's 2 tickets open. Do you want to go?" But yeah, I really wanted to watch it. I think any historical epic will be interesting at the very least, and it's one that I'd read. There's not that many epic poems or stories that I have that much familiarity with. You've got the Odyssey, you've got the Ramayana, and
the Mahabharata. Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit if we can.
If there was a Mahabharata adaptation of this scale and this budget and this production value, I would 100% go see it. It's not an Odyssey specific thing. It's
right.
A lot of these are, if regardless of anything else, they're just interesting stories. It's a very well told tale. It has so many different threads that come together at the end. Compelling characters, action, adventure, romance. It's like, why would you not want to see that?
And do you find the text kind of staying with you after you read it in high school? Do some of the characters, because I seem to like map my life with, I always say I'm on my way back home, it's an Odyssey, or some of the characters, the sirens, I sometimes map some of my life onto the Odyssey, or the Odyssey onto
I haven't really felt that. Yeah, I mean, I read it and I thought it was interesting. And then something in between now and when I read the book, I'd watched like a proper explanation, like summary of the thing that was like an hour long on YouTube, and that honestly probably is more cemented in my mind than I'm sure I read some of the chapters. I read Spark Notes instead of reading the book. But
and another thing is that there have been so many powerful retellings of the Odyssey in the last few years. Madeline Miller's Circe. And Margaret Atwood's The Penelopiad, they rescue strong female voices that have actually been repressed in the Odyssey, and they decide to give them voice. So my challenge was to now return to the original, already knowing that Odysseus is not the perfect warrior. If you think about how he's treated the women on his journey home.
And the other thing about this, I think, is that speaking of adaptations, there's that Oh Brother Where Art Thou, which is a George Clooney film, which some of you who are watching now may remember had elements of the Odyssey in there, including the sirens and the Cyclops and people trying the journey home kind of thing. And Tara is, studying here, teaching here. Eventually, he's going to return to India, so she might be thinking about it in that sense. Can you tie the epicness of these long poems to the Mahabharata and Ramayana, and is there any connection there in terms of, in ancient days, we don't write those kind of poems anymore. What is it in those 2,000 years ago that caused people to write such long poems, or at least these set of characters to write these kind of poems?
I actually had an excellent professor in my undergrad who asked us to read the Iliad and the Mahabharata side by side to see congruences between the text, and it was amazing because these, like a clash of civilizations and ideals, but also the warrior. There are certain scenes that are remarkably similar, but I can't talk enough about the influence of one because so much of it was oral storytelling, so I don't know quite how they might have influenced each other. So
the Greeks,
but there's a lot of parallels in the story.
But there's no actual connections, right? The Greeks did come to India, but came after all of this, right? They came much closer, 300 BC, rather than when these poems were written. Is that correct?
I think there was trade happening all the time before that.
Okay. So before we wrap up, what are some things that will stay with you about the movie that you'll be thinking about Krishna and then Tara?
I think, like I said in the beginning, I think the way that they took a multi-thousand-year-old story and managed to make it recognizable, but also uniquely this movie. There's aspects of the story that are, like, without spoiling it, what happens at the end with it's not really a reveal. It's kind of a subtle reveal at the end. Like, I don't think that was part of the original story, but I thought the way that they did that was fantastic.
Is it? It's you're saying there's some kind of twist that we'll be looking
There's
at,
a
but
twist, but it's-
not an M Night
honestly,
Shyamalan twist.
I wouldn't be surprised if you polled 100 people leaving the theater, less than 50 of them like you know what the C people.
Yeah.
I think you think a lot of people left that movie and didn't know what the hell was that.
I'm definitely going to see it again. I
Me
don't know
too,
about
me
you.
too.
Like you just feel like you need to watch it again. I had a friend ask me an interesting question, which was, what did you think the sirens sounded like? And that's been.
It's not in the
for
movie.
a bit.
It's not.
Well, one of the best parts of the movie is how they handle the sirens.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. And
okay.
and that's.
I'm expecting music and
That's beautifully
and
done.
singing, and it's not the case.
So it's really it's to each their own. What the sirens could mean to you.
It's
So,
interesting
yeah,
that they chose to
yeah.
depict what Helen of Troy looks like,
Yeah.
because a lot of apparently the way Homer did it, he was never describing a specific woman, because if she's supposed to be the most beautiful woman imaginable, it's going to be different for every person. Not everybody's going to read this is the most beautiful woman in the world. And same way, not everyone's going to agree that the siren song, like you could hire every composer in the world, every musician. They're not going to put together. You know, you did that with We Are the World. Nobody's favorite song of all time is We Are the World. It's a good song, but it's
Yeah. So in a way, the siren song is supposed to reach you and you separately, and I think similarly that's what the film will do. It will target, or it will find a part that will resonate with just you, and that you'll take out into the world.
yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. I'm curious, how come the the Emily Wilson adaptation, that sounds like it's a new thing. He must have started this book, reading books long ago. So how do we know it's, I mean, of course, he said it's this one.
He said that he's very influenced by it, and she's currently working on another translation of the Odyssey. She's
Why?
doing another one.
Why?
Yeah, she just says, apart from the first line, she's going to rework almost every line. Just like details like the line breaks. She says she could do.
So her
like
version
that.
is as a poem. So
Yes,
isn't that hard
yes.
to read for us who aren't used
No,
to?
because it's an iambic pentameter, and because she's used a very fresh lexicon, it's really
Wow.
readable.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And I had a lot of people around me, because I run this book club. They said, "Oh no, we can't handle a Greek epic," and I said, "Just try it, right?" And she's got an excellent introduction. She's got a translator's note, but I just dove straight in. And there's something about the language. Some of her words are very modern. At one point she says "Dear Daddy"
really?
for Zeus, I think. So some will take her to task for that. But I think just for breathing life into this epic, I think she's done an incredible job.
Okay,
Yeah.
promise you the last thing is, I heard there's some kind of Zeus's law that is part of this story. So can you explain what that is, and is that something we should all know about?
It's like treat every stranger. The exact phrasing they use, I'm gonna butcher it a little bit. It's like treat every stranger with respect and hospitality, because they may be a god in disguise.
Okay, so I think that's a good advice anyway, right? And in Sanskrit, there's a saying about treat your guest like the gods, right? Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much. I've learned a lot, and I'm excited to see it. You're going to see the movies again, the film again?
For sure.
You are, yeah. Krishna saw it in the second row. He's 23. When I was 23, I saw Jurassic Park in the second row when it opened, and I hurt my neck and didn't really enjoy it as much as I had to go right back and see it. How was it in the second row, Krishna?
I was in a theater where the second row is not that close to the screen, so it was bad, but it wasn't terrible. I say it's the equivalent of being in the fifth or sixth row at a normal theater.
But would you say that people should wait to see it in IMAX, or is it okay to see it otherwise?
Well, I didn't see it in IMAX.
No, but
so
what do you think? What have you heard?
It seems like it's a big difference. From what
I didn't see it in IMAX. I couldn't get tickets as yet,
Yeah.
but the next one will be,
Yeah.
because I think
The
that's,
giant scene apparently is really much better.
and he's created it for IMAX,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I think we should do it.
When we say giant, with the Cyclops, so there's another set of giants.
Another set of giants.
Oh my god!
Which are way more interesting in the book. That I think is by far the least interesting obstacle they face in the movie.
Okay.
But it's pretty interesting in the book.
So there are also connections here to Game of Thrones, because Cersei is the name of one
And
of the
there's a
villains,
scene.
and there are giants.
There's a scene that's very similar, but we're not going to say.
Okay.
I haven't seen Game of Thrones, so I don't know.
All right. We live next to and share a wall with a Pakistani American family where their daughters are named Arya and Olenna from Game of Thrones. So I see that these kinds of names, topics, themes, I think resonate worldwide, and that's why this movie has been a huge success around the planet already. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you again. Bye.